Welcome to Blackwater D&D, where good friends tell better stories. This series, Balance, is a mini-series using the Powered by the Apocalypse system, Godkiller, which was created by Connie Chong and is now available at itch.io for purchase. This series is proudly sponsored by Hero Forge and Moonbeam. This tale takes us back, long before the end of the universe, to a time when we begin to explore and understand old divine wounds that run so very deep, and what happens when love is caught in the middle. This story encouraged us as creators to strive for genuine emotion and connection, relish the space we create at the table, and take big swings with the way we approach our narrative. For this story, your god, everyone else, and the thrum of the cradle is myself, M. Carlson, and my Godkillers are played by Gina Susanna and Yanis Wessels. As this game falls within a holy punk and dark fantasy genre, it may contain themes and depictions that are triggering for some listeners. Please take care of yourself and access safe support as you see fit. Content warnings for this episode include violence, body horror, police brutality, animal endangerment, death, murder, grief, loss, romance, heartbreak, being chased, ulterior motives, and knives as weapons. So sit back and relax, heretics, and welcome to Godkiller, Balance. Episode 5, Running. At first, you think it's part of the dream, despite the fact that the loud sound is in such contrast to the softness of the dreamscape and your time together. There's so much that you would rather do other than waking up. So much of you that would rather drift your way back to the beach, hearing the lap of the waves on the pristine shores, feeling the soft breeze on your face, the company of the other under the fabric tent, your hands softly grazing and then entwining briefly. A moment of true stillness and hope in a world that feels so very far from that. But this isn't part of the dream. This is sharp, and you're landing back down in what is real and tangible. There is a pounding on each of your doors, and you hear it once more with a strong voice accompaniment. Glass guard, open up! You are each in your beds, in your own room. What would you like to do?
I think having been woken from the first dream that he's had in a long time, it has not put Rake in the best of moods. And I think he takes his time collecting his things, and he makes his way to the door. What's the business of your inquiry?
Do you say this through the closed door, or do you open the door?
I say through the closed door.
There is a pause. You hear a whisper. You can't quite make out what the words are. But then you hear, "We've been ordered to search the rooms." As for your room, it is more well appointed than you know the sparse bedroom that ever sleeps in next to you, or like just across the hall. There is a window that faces out onto the main street and one that faces out onto the alley. You know you're on the second floor. To your knowledge, there are no other exits in this room. And you have your kit with you entirely. You are rested and awake. You are not groggy, other than having been pulled from sleep rather than the slow, gentle way that you would have hoped to wake up.
All right, I'm going to open up the door. And I will open the door and step back. And as I step back, I'll put my hands in my pocket and sort of lean against the desk that's there.
Okay. So as you open the door, you see 2 armored guards outside of your room. They stand at the threshold. They are wearing glass guard armor, and you've seen the glass guard before. It is essentially the equivalent of a city watch. They are mostly quite well put together, quite regimented. They never really have to use an excessive show of force. Mostly the City of Glass doesn't have a lot of, at least outward, crime to it. Most people are just trying to make their way in the world. You see them wearing dark pewter leather. There are short swords at their hips. They wear like a dark pewter metal greaves, and then there's metal placed in the bracers on their arms. One of them wears a green cloak, and you see the ranking of some insignia on his lapels, potentially a captain or some kind of elevated officer. You would see this, Rake, I think, with how observant you are and your gifts, how attuned you are to the way that people move. The armor doesn't exactly fit them fully. The one on the left seems to be in armor built for potentially a femme-presenting body, but this is a masculine-presenting person. And there are some dark patches on the bottom of the boots on the person on the right that don't seem clean nor pristine as they normally are.
I'd have your names if you're going to search my room.
We don't have to give you that. Can you step outside, please?
I thought you were here to check my rooms.
You need to be out of the room for us to check it.
Oh. Am I somehow going to inhibit your search?
Likely. Can you step outside the room, please?
And you're going to stay in my room by yourselves?
We don't have to answer to you. You're not the owner of this establishment.
So the owner asked you to come by?
Can you step out of the room?
As far as I understand, this is a private residence. Under whose order are you here? I believe as a member of the Glass Guard, you are beholden to the laws of the city.
We are, yes, and so are you.
So who sent you?
And when an officer of the Glass Guard asks you to exit the room you are paying to occupy, we ask that you do so, in accordance with the laws.
An officer, you say?
Yes.
What's your rank?
The one on the right, the one with the darkened splotches on their pants and boots, wearing the cloak. Captain.
I didn't know they sent captains to search rooms.
Step outside.
Gladly. And with that, he would pull his hands out of his pockets, now wearing gloves with fingers that come to points, metal points. You can see that they were once black, but from much use, the black is worn off to reveal silver tips. And I'm going to use a move.
Okay. What would you like to do?
I'm going to inflict violence.
Okay. So, when you inflict violence on someone, roll 2d6, and you add 1 for each true statement. They wish you harm. Yes. You're desperate.
No.
No. It's personal.
Is it from which end does that statement need to be answered?
From you.
I think it's always personal for Rake, but no, not in the way that they mean it in the question.
Okay, so that's a +1.
I rolled a 7, so +1 is 8.
Okay. So on a hit, 7 to 9, this part of the fight ends on your terms. What would you like to do?
I think as Rake says gladly and the hands come out of the pockets, there's a moment where he lets the glamour slip, and they see before them the void in flight in his true form. Big black wings. Almost a shadow that obscures his face in this form. And the tips of those gloves just become ever so slightly longer, almost grotesque in their length. And I think the speed at which he closes that gap to the first one catches the first one by surprise.
Mm-hmm.
And he gets close. He gets right up against him. And his right hand, claws and all, sink deep into his belly. And the second hand grasps him around the throat and leans in. You've made a big mistake. And then he drops him. And before moving to the second one, Rake will ask again, who sent you?
You see, in this tense moment, as the captain, bleeding heavily from his stomach, falls to the floor, blood gushing from him, you smell a hint of brimstone. You smell sulfur. The other guard takes a step back, readies themselves, and says, the Scion of Perdition, and they are going to move to attack you. This guard is going to come forward, whip a short sword out, and then also is going to attempt to move in, trip you, and then come down and stab you. What would you like to do?
Now that I've closed the gap towards the door, I assume they hadn't fully stepped in.
No.
And I'm in the hallway now.
You are, and there is like a clamor as this happens, and you hear a clamoring coming from downstairs as well.
And I know that's where Ever is staying.
Ever is in the door just down the hallway.
And do I see anyone outside of her door?
No, not yet.
I think Greg would hurt them. I'm going to inflict violence.
Okay.
What I'm going to do with the second one is, seeing that he's going to move to attack me,
Mm-hmm.
I think what he does is he lets him come in and trip him. And as he falls onto the body of his companion, I think he's going to wait for that moment where the sword is about to swing down at him. And he will turn and, using his wings, push himself back up from the floor, arms outstretched, skewering him with both hands through the chest, and then proceed to throw him into the room that he just exited.
Okay. So once more, when you inflict violence, you roll 2d6, and you're going to add 1 for each true statement. It hits the same here. Or is it personal now?
Oh, now it's personal.
Now it's personal. So that's a +2.
That is going to be a 10.
Okay. So on an overkill, 10+, you lose yourself to righteous fury, and the GM will tell you the costs of your divinity. But before I tell you the costs of your divinity, we are going to pan over to maybe moments before, while you were speaking with the glass guard through the door. Ever. You hear the pounding on the door with the glass guard asking you to open up. What would you like to do?
I think I would be very confused and not understanding why there is such a loud interruption so early in the morning. Nothing else feels or sounds like it's wrong. Doesn't sound like there's a commotion or anything like that.
No, there's no commotion coming from outside. You have 2 windows in your room as well, one facing the front street and one facing what you assume is the space between buildings on the other side. There are only, I think, 4 rooms on the top of the second floor of this tavern, this inn. So if you were looking to make a run for it, that would be a valuable option. If you were looking to open the door, there is only one way in and out of this room.
I think I would look to Rowan. He's still asleep on the bed, or is he awake?
He has woken up and is sitting kind of bolt upright, looking at the door and looking back at you. He looks nervous. It's a loud sound for a tiny, tiny little fox.
I think I would just turn to him and point to my bag that's near the door and just say, "Hide."
He does as requested and jumps off the bed and goes inside your bag. And you hear him rustle around in there and settle in next to what you assume are something cozy, something comfortable. And you just see the last little bit of the fur of his tail disappear in the bag. And you can assume that he is in there safe and sound.
And I'll make my way to the door. I'll pull Varric's shawl back over my shoulders. And I open it.
Okay. Outside of the room, you see 2 guards. They are standing at the door. They are wearing dark pewter leather armor, short swords, greaves, and bracers. Neither of them are wearing cloaks or any insignia. They simply look like members of what you would assume to be the Glass Guard. You have never seen the Glass Guard before. You've never heard about what they are. You assume to be a city watch of some kind.
What's going on? Can I help you?
We're going to need you to come downstairs. We need to search the rooms.
I'm sorry, it's so early. Search the rooms for what?
That's beyond your concern. This is a tavern, miss. It's part of city property. We need to search the rooms. Will you come downstairs, please?
Is everything all right? Should I?
Just step outside the room, miss, and please come downstairs.
All right. Let me just... And I'll grab my bag and sling it over my shoulder carefully. All right. And I will do as I'm told.
Okay. Would you like to use the move do as you're told?
I would.
Okay. So when you do as you're told, say how you show submission and answer one. The GM will show you a glimpse of their true intentions as they answer the other. So the 2 questions are, how are you rewarded? And what vulnerability do you reveal?
I would hope that I'm rewarded by not being involved in any sort of trouble that's happening here. I would like to be rewarded with, as far as I know, these Glass Guard are here to help. So I would assume that I would be rewarded with safety.
Okay. And what vulnerability do you reveal? As you step out into the hallway, one of the Glass Guard enters the room and starts absolutely tearing it apart. The other looks at you and looks at your bag and says, "This way, miss." Puts his hand on your shoulder and begins to walk you downstairs. As you do this, you walk past Rake's room and you hear the bang, bang, bang on the door. You hear Rake speaking inside, asking them why they're opening up, and their short and curt replies as you are led downstairs, down into the main lobby. As you get downstairs, you see Kian with his hands on the bar, and he looks nervous and scared as one of 2 of the other guards who are down here. So now bringing 3 guards total, 1 with you, 2 with Kian. You know 1 is upstairs in your room and 2 outside Rake's room, as you know that there are 6 altogether. Kian's eyes widen as he stares at you and flashes a look at one of what look to be the highest ranking official in the room standing next to him. This person, however, is not wearing the same armor as the people who opened your door are. You see a dark, black, gray metal, almost like gunmetal. You see red insignia, red tunics, red scarves, and you see the symbol of a crown aflame on a pauldron on this man's shoulder. And the highest ranking of these people is standing in the middle of the room, but one near the bar looks up to the one that is bringing you downstairs and goes, "You'll never guess what we found here. Bit of a 2-for-1. Found ourselves a void walker. Could have killed him on sight, but I figured that we'd want the collar and set him before the high priest. And looky here." And you see the guard who is standing next to Kian place a knife on the bar. It looks a heck of a lot like your knife, but less ornate. The Major smiles. "Well, this is our lucky day indeed. It's been a while since we've had one in the city. Good that we found him before the Nova's watch did. They have all the fun and are way too soft on this kind of filth." Their eyes all then turn to you, Ever. The Major looks at you. "Put her there. Empty her bag." The bag is about to be wrenched from your shoulder. What would you like to do?
I would try and hold on to it, and I think I would just cry out, "Please, that's all I have."
"Miss, you need to let us search your bag. If we find what we're looking for, you can go."
What are you looking for? I'll tell you if I have it.
"You need to put any weaponry you have on the table." You also begin to hear crashing upstairs. You hear the sound of what you can only assume to be a body hitting the floor. And you hear scuffling. The guard closest to Kian looks up. The one who is on your shoulder looks up as the Major stands in the room and he goes, "Go, now." The 2 guards let you go. They fly upstairs and the Major begins to step towards you. And we are going to cut back upstairs to Rake as we talk about how you lose yourself to righteous fury, and the GM will tell you the costs of your divinity. I think, Rake, in this moment, you truly lose yourself. You, the you know, the you she knows, is gone. You are your title. Nothing more. You are everything she made you, and nothing more.
Can I add to that?
Always.
I think in that moment, after he's thrown the captain back into the room, and he stands there with the blood dripping from the talons at the end of his fingers, and he looks down the hallway, and he sees the open door of Ever's room. I think that part of him that was his father's son, that was there on that beach with Ever, I think it retreats back to the memory of that dream. And it hides itself so deep that it lets the void and flight take full control in that moment. And I think the only thing that he knows and that he thinks about is about protecting that little flickering flame that Ever lit the night before, and now everyone else seems so desperate to extinguish. And he just sees them all as obstacles. And I think knowing that she's in danger, I think he's going to unleash his divinity.
Okay. What is your divine trigger?
My divine trigger is when you hurl yourself into obvious danger to help a mortal awaken your divinity.
Okay.
Now that, I guess, becomes a question of, is Ever still mortal?
Well, let's give it a shot, and you can see. So, describe to me how you hurl yourself into danger.
If it's all right with you, maybe he heard her exclaim from downstairs, and then the thudding of boots of guards making their way up the stairs, and I think he just launches himself down the stairs. He's not even running anymore. I think he's being fully borne by his wings as he descends like a bird of prey down the staircase.
Okay. So, when you unleash your awakened divinity, you describe how your godhood surges forth as you exert your will upon reality, which you have. Your wings give you flight. You could not be called the void in flight if you can't fly. You accomplish a single brilliant feat with one side effect of your choosing. It is brief, it is obvious, or it is unstable.
I think it's one of the first times that Rake has been this obvious about his abilities. He's always been better about keeping his altercations in this form to places or sizes where no one would live to truly speak of it, or at least know what caused it. And I think in this moment, he doesn't care who sees. So I think for this one is that it's obvious.
Ever, you see the guards run upstairs, and you hear a crash as, hurtling down the stairs, you see a massive black form that you can only assume is Rake, but he has a pair of huge black wings on his back. He lands on the floor in front of you, and you hear the clamoring of the guards attempting to whirl their way around upstairs. The major in front of you, across the room next to Kian, his eyes go wide, and you see he pulls out a long black metal scimitar. It smells like sulfur. The room immediately smells like someone has lit a match and then extinguished it. The room becomes hotter. It is overwhelming. There are so many sensory things going all at once. The two of you in this room, Kian takes that moment. He is no longer restrained. He grabs his knife on the bar and he looks to the two of you. What would you like to do?
I think as Rake lands, it is as if you see in front of you a feral beast. His face is scrunched in anger and just pure aggression. He is snarling, all of his teeth are visible, and he scans the room, seeing the major draw the scimitar and identifying him as the leader. And in all of this twisted, inhuman version of Rake that you see before you, when his eyes pass over you, you see the expression change. You see that half smile quirk his lips, and his eyes soften ever so slightly. And you hear him speak, but the voice is different than you've heard before. But what he says is not unfamiliar. "Good morning, sunshine." And he turns and he says, "Keenan."
Kian looks to you and, ready to take instruction.
"Do for me what your kind did not do for my father. Help me." And he's going to launch himself at the major.
Kian takes your hint and he runs behind where the bar is, almost launching himself up over, and throws his full weight in the lower body of this major, attempting to knock him backwards. Ever, what are you doing in this moment?
I think Ever is in shock. I think seeing Rake in this form and the words of Servon running through her mind, the void in flight. And I think how close to me were you when you landed?
He's probably about maybe 6 to 8 feet from you.
Yeah, he would have made sure that he landed between you and the scimitar-wielding major.
You do have a clear shot at the door.
I don't think she'd be able to move. I think she would be still planted in the chair where she was sat. I think I would open my bag and let Rowan out and tell him to run for the door. And I think I would just stand and want to run, but not feel it in my feet to move just yet.
As Rowan hears your instruction, Your bag still in your hands, he rockets out and he runs out of the door. You see the door had been propped open by the guard and he runs outside and you lose sight of him. As you go to close the bag, your hands automatically doing something that you do all of the time while this plays out in front of you, and you watch as Kian and Rake begin to start assailing the Major. You look down in your bag, Ever, and you see the knife. You see the knife that Rake showed you last night. It's right there. You didn't put it in your bag last night. Rake had it in his possession.
Why would he?
What would you like to do?
Oh, I want to. I think I'm going to wait and see what happens, but my hand is inside my bag and it is close to the knife, that if something starts to go wrong, then if I have to use it, I will.
The second you put your hand in that bag, your hand wants that knife between its fingers. You remember what it felt like last night. That surge of energy, that rush, that ability to do anything, be anything. Your hand wants to be holding that knife.
And I remember the mark on my hand, how it burned. If I'm not supposed to have this, why do I want it so much? I'm going to grab it.
As you put your hand on the blade, you automatically feel your arm move to expose it from the bag, and the second you remove it from inside, your hand fully grips around the handle and that pulse comes back. It ripples up your arm and you feel a wave of energy ripple out from you. Rake, you see it's almost as if it is a small shockwave move through the room. It hits you and you're able to stay steady. It blows Kian backward, blowing the Major down as well. Ever, you feel divine. You feel an intense surge of power like you have never known. And you feel like this knife was meant to be in your hand. It was meant to take everything you feel that you have felt for a long time. That anger, that rage, that vengeance. And this is exactly where that knife is supposed to be. Rake, what are you doing right now?
I think when Rake feels that shock wave, he's mid sort of leap at the Major. And I think he stops because he wants to behold her in all of her divinity. And he turns and he stares at you, Ever, and you see a flicker of the Rake from the night before. And you see that genuine smile as he looks at you. And it's as though you in your divine presence is somehow pushing back the dark mist that descends on him when he truly becomes the void in flight. And he watches her just for a second, and he turns, and his posture changes, and he moves to inflict violence.
Okay. So, you're inflicting violence on the Major.
Yup.
Okay. Kian has given you a hand in this as he's helped knock the Major to the floor, and you see that Kian, blown backward by this pulse, this divine wave of energy, he is gathering himself. He is trying to find his own knife in the process and moving in to help you again, Rake. When you inflict violence, you roll 2d6, and you're going to add 1 for each true statement. They wish you harm. Yes. Are you desperate?
Yes, in this moment. I think he can tell that something is up with that sword.
Okay. And it's personal.
Yes.
That is a +3.
That's good, because I did roll 2 2s for a total of 4 plus 3, which gives me 7, which is just enough.
Okay, and here I was thinking we were going into overkill again.
Oh no, I'm very thankful that I even made that one.
On a hit 7 to 9, this part of the fight ends on your terms. What do you do here as you move in to inflict violence on the Major?
I think as he falls and his arms sort of go up in the air, before he fully hits the ground, Rake is there and he catches him by the wrist of the arm that's wielding the scimitar. And I think he grabs his wrist with his left hand, and with his right he just takes the arm off clean at the elbow, removing the arm and the scimitar from the Major as he stumbles back. And he puts a boot on the Major's chest. And he looks down at him, a truly sadistic, terrifying smile creeping across his face.
As you do this, the Major knows he's been beat. But there is something uncanny about that smile on your face. There is no mirrors around, but you see almost a reflection of it sit on the Major's face. The Scion will have your head. This was the easy option. Do what you will.
He can get in line. How dare you? Come here. You obviously know who I am. Are you looking to start a war?
It's already started.
No, it's finished for you. And I will flip his arm around and stab him through the chest with his own arm wielding scimitar.
The blade pierces him, and you hear it burn through the metal. You hear it burn through the mail underneath. You hear it burn through the leathers. Everything, a searing blade through the chest. You hear it singe the floor below and stick into it. And that smell of brimstone as he begins to bleed out. There's a heat that comes from them, this blade particularly, but their bodies. And Rake, you see on the hilt of the blade, you see a stone, deep, deep maroon. There seems to be a fire that dances within it. A crown etched, engraved into the hilt. A flaming crown. These are soldiers of Ashmedai who were sent here after the both of you.
As I turn away from him and survey the room, are there any guards left, or have they all fled?
You hear some fumbling upstairs as the ones that you blew past and down onto the ground are attempting to right themselves and come down after you. Kian is there. He has himself together. He looks at you. We should go. We should go. The door is open.
Rake stalks over to Ever. He still doesn't move quite right. He moves in a way that is like when you see a bird walking rather than flying. It's clumsy, but it still belies the power that it has. And he gets right in front of you, Ever, wielding that knife. We should go.
You said that there are guards who are still coming down after us.
Yep. As Rake moves towards you, you hear behind him, you see behind him the first guard round the stairs coming down from the upstairs level.
And they don't look like they're fleeing, they look like they're coming after us.
Your sense is from these guards so far that they are here to do a job, and no matter what happens, they will see the job through. You have not seen 1 ounce of them looking to flee, no matter what the situation is.
I think as Rake is standing before me, there's a moment where I think something just clicks in my mind, seeing him in this form, seeing everything that he's done, the carnage that is down here. And I think slower than you've ever seen ever move, her head just sort of turns to look at the guards coming down the stairs. And I can feel the divinity of this knife coursing through me. And I'd like to try and wield a power, if I can.
Okay, so you don't know what powers this knife grants you. You don't fully know who crafted this blade, but I'm curious what you would like to do here.
I know how to make things grow,
You do.
and I've poured life into things before.
You have.
I've attempted to do so with Rake. And when I touched him, I felt that coldness, that absence of warmth, the loss of it. A half-life. And I want to see if, instead of imbuing it, I can pull some of the life from these guards.
So it's less of using the power of the knife, but taking the small powers that are gifted to you, that were gifted to you by Tielia and every other person in Temiset, and using the knife as an amplifier.
Yes.
Okay. I'll allow it. Let's see. Let's go. So, when you wield a power to do something only a god can, roll 2d6 and add 1 for each true statement. You've done this specific act before, perfectly. No. You're desperate for this to work. Are you desperate for this to work?
No, we have other options.
Okay. And you're close to a shrine, lair, or domain of the god you took this power from? No. So this is a flat roll.
I rolled a 6 and a 5.
4 and 11.
4 and 11.
Okay. So on an overkill, 10 plus, the GM will describe how you also drain, terrify, or wreck what's around you. Okay. Which hand do you hold the knife in?
My right.
Your right hand grips the knife, holding it at your side, a white knuckle grip on this blade. You reach your left hand out forward and attempt to pull the life, pull that energy from the 1, 2, and 3 guards who are now running down the stairs. Are your eyes closed? Are you focusing, or are your eyes open at this point? Because I think it's important who sees what.
I think my eyes would be open.
Okay. Rake, you're standing to face Ever as she reaches out. And Ever, your eyeline pierces just past Rake's shoulder as you reach up and over. And you hear a gasp and a wheeze as you see the color and pallor drain from the three guards in succession, as it's almost like they walk into a wall and begin to wither. You have seen what lack of sunlight and lack of water, lack of care and attention do to plants. This is exponentiated and faster. These people are desiccating in front of you. And they collapse in a heap on the floor. 1, 2, 3. And they hit the floor. And they do not move. You feel a rush through you like you have never known. It is almost as like you feel vitality, their vitality, available at your fingertips. It courses through you, back through the hand that had taken it, through your arm, through your chest. You feel it pump through your heart, and it settles down into the blade. You watch the runes and the crystal, the red crystal embedded in it, alight, and you feel fucking alive. What would you like to do, both of you?
I think when Rake sees this, Ever change, when he sees her finally stop wrestling with the things that were stopping her from truly letting her anger out, letting her vengeance out, and he sees her accept it and wield it as a weapon, I think it breaks something in him. I think there was a part of him that had believed that that dream was somehow possible, that there was something he could fix in himself to be able to make that something that could be real. And I think when he realizes that he's not the only one that's broken, in this moment, he might at some point grow to a point where sharing that experience with someone is a comfort. But in this moment, it's a loss of who he thought she was. And I think he blames himself for it. Because if he hadn't given her that knife, if he hadn't stepped in, she would never have given herself to that anger, to that vengeance. And I think in that moment, his glamour comes back and he drops to his knees and he switches out of that void in flight persona, and you just see Rake in front of you, and he looks genuinely scared. We have to go now. Please, Ever. Just run with me.
Seeing Rake shift back and the form, the way they looked when they, I think Ever would snap back into more clarity. Tear my eyes from those bodies and look back at you. I didn't mean to. I only wanted them to stop. I only wanted to slow them down. I didn't mean to.
It's okay. We can talk about that later.
I didn't mean to kill them. I didn't mean to.
It's all right. We can talk about it later.
Can I try and drop the knife? Can I drop the knife?
You can.
I let it fall onto the floor.
I think actually before it even gets close to the ground, Rake is still bound by a duty.
Mm-hmm.
And he snatches that blade from the air right before it hits the ground and sheathes it at his side. We have to go. We can talk about this later.
Kian looks to the both of you. I am going to go find the actual glass guard and try and save some face here in the bar that I work at. Go, run. Go, now. Don't come back. Go.
We have to go.
Go.
He reaches his hand
Okay.
towards you, Ever.
I take it.
And he pulls you to your feet. Let's go.
Okay.
We make our way out the door.
Okay. So, the two of you take off. In one direction, you see Kian run in the other, and he's starting to call for the glass guard. It doesn't matter what story he will spin. It doesn't matter. All that matters is you get as far away from this place as possible. Where are you going? Where are you running?
I think in the time that Rake has spent in these different places, he must have had not necessarily safe houses, but places he knew were difficult to find, places he knew he could be safe if he was ever discovered or ever sort of identified as who he was. And I think he would make his way to what would be in this case an old bookshop that he had gone to purchase old religious texts and history books in his research, and had discovered that above it was a small unused attic that they didn't really use for much, and he'd figured out a way to come up the back of the building and use this as a sort of safe house. He probably had some money stashed there, an extra set of clothes, and I think that's where he would lead Ever.
Okay. So a bookshop like this would likely be in the 3rd district. A lot of the more kind of structured artisans are in this district. You are also in the 3rd district, so that's good. It's not far enough that it around the ring, so that it's almost on the opposing side. So you're not in the same area of the district where the Wayfarer's Lamp is, but you are still within the same populace, the same types of people, so you know how this district moves. You weave your way through the crowds. Are you running? Are you walking? Are you trying to blend in? What are you doing here?
I think we start by running, and then Rake would slow his pace and cover yourself with your shawl.
Right. I'll pull it up over my hair like a hood.
Do you look for Rowan before you run?
I would be looking for him the whole time.
Okay. You don't see him as of this point. But you know he is more than a normal fox. He was gifted to you by a god.
What are you looking for? I see your eyes darting.
Rowan. He's a small fox. He's been with me this whole time. I let him go back at the lamp, but I can't find him.
He's lost.
No,
It's all right.
he's got to be out here somewhere.
Would you like to find him first?
Do we have time?
We don't have time for anything anymore. But if he's important to you, we can find him.
Ever just nods.
All right. I think I might know someone who could help us. He specializes in those who are lost. And I would reach in my bag and I would pull out the map that Teo gave me.
Okay. Rake pulls out this map. It is a beautiful, like, waxed canvas. And do you stop, or are you looking while you're walking?
I think we would look while we're walking and sort of try and make it look as though we are someone looking for a place and we're just pulling out a map to sort of get our directions.
Okay. The map is ornately made with what seems to be very high quality ink on this beautiful waxed canvas. And for all intents and purposes, it looks like a regular map, except there are 2 dots on it. And if you look around, it is in the same part of the district that you are. And as you move, the dots move down the same street you're walking down. You do not see any other moving objects on the map at this point. You might need a bit of time to figure out how this map works, but you are on it.
Do I see anything on it that would indicate Teo?
You do not. You do not see any other dots or markers moving on the map like yours are. It shows an exceedingly accurate depiction of glass. You can even see on the map parts of the city that look to be under construction. You see a building that you walked past about half a block before that was still being built. You see this building only half drawn. Like there is the construction, the scaffolding, the workers are drawn onto this building. Even the chime in the center does not look fully complete. It is beautifully detailed. Around the border as well, there seems to be a script of some kind, but you can't seem to read it, but you do know it's writing. What would you like to do?
What is that? What is that map?
It was given to me by a very special person, someone who specializes in the lost, actually. He said that if I ever need to find him, I would be able to find him using this map. But honestly, I've never used it before, and I'm not quite sure where to look. I believe that if we find Teo, they will definitely be able to help us find Rowan.
Right.
Give me a second. And I sort of find a little alley alcove thing to step into, and I close my eyes, and I would like to pray for guidance.
So, when you pray for guidance, name the aid you seek and answer one. The GM will describe the aid that actually comes as they answer the other. What kind of god answers your prayers, or what unclear omens or visions besiege you?
I would like clarity on where Teo is. And the god I would like to have answer my prayers is Teo. So a little twofer there.
Okay. So what unclear omens or visions besiege you? As you hold this map and you close your eyes, you see a kettle whistling as if the water is boiling on a wood-burning stove. You see 3 teacups set on a low table. You hear someone humming as they shuffle around a room. And as you do this, as you open your eyes slowly, the script seems to become clearer in a language that you can read of the common tongue. And it says, to show all of humanity and its creation, to find the missing, and to recover the lost. And from that, you get the sense that you can use this map to find anyone, anywhere. And I truly mean anyone and anywhere.
And just to clarify, Rake knows this, but Ever does not.
Yes.
All right. And do I get an indication that that would be by speaking the person's name?
Yes.
All right.
Their true name.
Oh, their true name.
Yes.
Do I know Teo's true name?
You do. You might need to put their epithet in there as well, but you do know their true name.
I believe that Teo the Lost will be able to help us. If I can only find him on this map.
Okay. So as you speak Teo the Lost over the paper, over this beautiful canvas map, you see a dot appear on the map in the 4th district. Seemed like a pretty normal area of the city with no major landmarks.
Oh, look at that. There he is. If we go there, I believe we will be safe. And then we can also ask about your fox friend.
You would see that Ever's face has just been sort of blank for the majority of the walk, run. She has wet tracks of tears on her cheeks. She just looks like she's just killed 3 people for the first time. She looks at you and down at the map and then back up at you and just nods. Says, "Let's go someplace safe."
Ever, are you okay?
No. No. But I will be. I hope. And she looks at you like she's going to say something else. And then she stops.
I know. I'm sorry that you had to see that.
Let's go someplace safe.
All right.
We can talk more about it when we get to where we're going. Thank you Thank you.
I think in that moment he would reach his hand out and place it on your shoulder. And he would look at you so intently. And he doesn't say it out loud, but in his head, to himself, he says, I can see it. I can touch it. It's real. And then he pulls her towards where the map shows Teo to be.
Okay. You traverse the city, keeping an eye out for guards who might be on your tail. There are no sign of them at this point. You went far enough away from the lamp, almost completely across the ring. But there's no going back there now. And you have a sense that from this point onward, at least in this city, you are going to continually have to be looking over your shoulder. You make your way over to the 4th district, following the map. You weave your way through the narrow streets, surrounded on both sides by 5-floor tenement buildings. You see laundry and washing hung on lines between buildings, and the streets are busy and packed. It's about midday at this point. The time you took, the events of the morning, to make your way over to this side, not running, but also trying your best to blend in. So people are moving their way around you, and if not for the connection between the two of you, you would be separated, lost in the crowd to each other, and maybe that's the point. This district is so busy. It is very easy to see one person and then completely lose sight of them. You feel like you pass the same point 3 times, but it is 3 different buildings that all just look the same. People offer things to you to buy and sell. There are market stalls jutting between the buildings. You see a couple of places to eat, some artisans' workshops opening onto the street. Is there anything you stop and look for as you go through this area, or do you just make a beeline?
I think if it's up to Rake, it would just be a beeline at this point.
So with Rake guiding you ever, there is a hum of the city here, and you're feeling it for the first time. This is your first time in Glass. You are used to the slow, quiet days in Temiset. The busiest, most bustling market days come nowhere close to this. It is like the busiest day in Temiset times 50. There's a myriad of scents that hit you. You smell herbs and you smell food cooking. You smell even hints of that apothetique that you know so well. But amongst this cornucopia of sensation, you smell something so familiar, and it almost bowls you over. You smell something spicy and rich, but with the sharp tang of citrus.
I stop. Wait. I look. Do I see where it's coming from?
You try and follow your nose, which is probably one of your most acute, most perceptive senses, and you see a stall probably about 10 feet away from you, and you wouldn't miss them. You couldn't if you tried. Packed amongst fruit, apples, you see mango, you see these big, large, almost yellow-looking fruits that look like papaya, which you recognize. You have seen those fruits inside on the trees in Temple Libika. You don't know what they're called, but they were on the palm trees around the pool. You see a myriad of fruit that looks like it probably wasn't grown here, probably shipped in from far away. And you see about 10 blood oranges in a basket.
Do I see anyone near them? Do I?
There is a stall tender behind. They have kind of a bit of gray hair on the sides. Looks to be an older human man, potentially in his 60s or 70s.
Eva, what's the matter?
Those oranges. Sorry, it just reminds me of home.
Do you want one?
And you clock it now. You are so hungry. Both of you. You haven't eaten.
So badly.
Let's get a couple for our walk.
Okay.
I'll need you to tell me which ones are good. I'm unfamiliar with this fruit.
Okay.
Tell me about them.
They're the most wonderful thing I've ever had.
You've seen where they grow?
I have. And you'll see Eva start to smile. She thinks about it.
Describe it to me.
They sing to them. They're grown out of love. And there's a flame inside that's like nothing you've ever had before.
Were you one of the singers?
No. I'm not much of a singer.
Such as the one they sung to.
I don't know if these are the same ones. They can't be.
There's only one way to find out. What are they called?
I think this conversation is happening as we're slowly walking over to the vendor, and I don't think they have a name. He always just called them. They were just blood oranges.
As you approach the table, the older gentleman sees the two of you approach. Good morrow, miss. What can I get you today? Hello, sir. What can I get you? He grabs a bag, ready to fill with fruit, whatever you wish.
Good morrow. I have to say, it's been some time since I've missed this smell.
The oranges. Yes, you can't miss them. We ship them in from up north. It's I don't know how they grow these up there, but the weather's not right for them. But we're very grateful to get them shipped down here. It should be the last shipment of the season, but they are still very fresh.
Well, you're talking to a local, so, I mean, if anyone can tell you if they are any good, it's...
You are from where they're grown, up in Temaset.
I am. Yes,
Oh, then you know the family then.
I do.
Oh, Firesong family, they're good folk, good folk. These are the last one before the winter, and Kalaya always makes sure that there are a box set down for me. I do love them myself. I remember her when she was a young lass. She used to come around in this district and do a lot of the healing with the other priestesses, and then she stopped coming around. So when the oranges started shipping from up north, my sense was then she moved up there with her family. So
Yes, they're wonderful.
well, please give them my regards. Please tell them Marcus from the market sends his regards. He looks quite taken aback that you would know the people who create these beautiful fruit. For him, as someone who works in agriculture and food, it's art.
Well, we should definitely try some then, right?
Of course. How many can I get you? I have only 10 left, but what can I get you? Anything else?
How much are they?
And he would give you the price of them.
I would say we take them all, right, Eva?
Yes.
That way you have a little bit of home with you whenever you need it.
I would love that. Yes. We'll take all 10. Please.
Well, good. He packs all 10 in the bag, and he puts one of the larger, kind of yellow papaya-shaped fruit in there. If you like what the Fire Songs have created, you will probably like this too. This is, Kalaya. If you see Kalaya, she will be able to tell you how to prepare this if you are headed back up north. This is Rila, and he puts the giant fruit in the bag as well. And then that's on me. That's on me for your time.
Oh, thank you so much, Marcus. It was very nice of you.
Of course. And you exchange the money, and he passes you this cloth bag full of beautiful fresh fruit.
So now I'm Eva. You're gonna have to help me here. I'm not familiar. Do I just eat it like an apple?
An orange.
I eat it like an orange. It has fire inside, you said.
Let me show you. And I take one of the oranges. I begin to peel it.
As you peel it, I think he says, so, the fire songs, you said?
Yes.
The family. And how do you know the fire songs?
I keep peeling the orange. and I've peeled back about half of it, and I start to pull out the segment. And as I do, you can see, while the outside is opalescent, inside there is what looks like a glowing flame inside this orange, and it is beautiful. And I hold out the segment, and I look at it as I answer you. I met the fire songs on an ordinary day in the market in Temiset, and you can see her face starts to change. There's a look of almost like she's reliving that moment, and then she looks back to the oranges. I told you they sing to them.
Yes.
There's one man in particular who I fell in love with him. I am in love with him. And I look back to you and realize where we are and what has just happened, and he's one of the best people I know.
Well, I'm sure he's missing you terribly.
Can I see a difference? A change in him at all as I say this?
I think you see someone who has always felt as though he might not be someone worthy of love. Just get confirmation that maybe he's right. And I don't think it's a sadness. I think it's just as simple as finding out something that you've always known. The orange, yes. Yes, let me try this wonderful fire song, blood orange.
And if you'll let me add on to that, as Rake extends his hand to you, Ever, to take the piece of orange, I don't know if you've ever seen someone try and put things away that have fallen out of a bag that was very neatly packed. That's often rushed and shoved in, and things kind of stick out, but very, very quickly things are put away. I think that's what you see. You see a retreating. Not in words. Maybe in a flicker of a facial expression or in his body language. But there were things out. And I think you are seeing them being packed away.
Rake, hey, let's we have someplace to be.
Yes, of course. Yes, of course. Let us find Teo, and then find your fox friend, and then we can decide from there what our next step is. I have some thoughts on it. But we must reunite you with your friend first. And I think we would, at this point, sort of arrive at the house shown on the map.
Okay.
To warn you, they are a little strange. They have a strange ability to make you feel as though they've had the conversation before and you're only having it for the first time. So just Be warned.
Okay.
They're also very amenable, which is odd for a god. Usually there's a lot of rules, and they seem pretty okay to do whatever. It's not an experience I've had before dealing with divinity, so you can trust them.
I think this whole time, the walk from the market to this place, in between bites of orange, Eva would have been watching him and assessing, trying to find those places where he stuffed it all back in. And as he's speaking to her now, she's nodding, taking in everything he's saying. But there's also that part of her that feels a loss. And I'll reach out and take your hand.
You see that surprises him. Not in a bad way.
I'm sorry if I was shocked at your appearance before.
No, it's okay. It is shocking.
Did I say something wrong back there?
No. Have you ever had a dream where you meet someone and you fall in love, and when you wake, you know it wasn't real? It was only a dream. But you ache for it. It's the only dream I've had in a very long time. And he would end the conversation by knocking on the door.
You knock on the front door of this tenement building. It looks to be about 5 floors. And nobody answers immediately, but there are enough people in this building that if you waited for a couple minutes, someone would come out. It's a busy building, middle of the day. So you sneak in as someone leaves. You hold the door open for them as they move themselves and their children out the door. And as you go inside, you pull out the map. And as you're inside this building, the map zooms in. You literally watch the ink move on the page. And you see layers of this apartment building. You see 5 floors. You see yourselves in the main front lobby. You see a staircase connecting all of them. And you see the dot representing Teo in the top floor on one of the middle apartments on the would-be north-facing side of the building. The map moves, and the ink settles back into the page.
Shall we?
She looks at you and you know she wants to say something, but she leaves it at that.
I think he sees that. I think he knows they're going to walk into a situation that's very important and pivotal. So he pauses. You want to say more? We might not get another chance.
I don't know what's happening. I don't know what this is. I came here yesterday. The biggest question on my mind was, should I take a bath at the Temple Labika, and now, and you. Why do I feel like I know you the way that I do? Why does it feel? Why does it feel like I don't understand this.
I don't either. But I am broken. I am sorry. We will find your fox. And then I think it is best that you go back to your singing love. Nothing good will come of this.
Who tells you that you're broken?
You saw me. No one who is whole can do what I do.
What does that mean for me, then? You saw what I did?
I saw what being around me made you do.
You didn't make me do anything. I took that knife. I grabbed it. I wanted to. I don't know why I wanted to, but I wanted to.
And what is it you want now?
I don't know.
You do know. I don't believe you. I saw you when you held that knife. I saw the certainty. I saw the power. The knife is powerful, but it is not that powerful. That came from you. That person I saw, they weren't uncertain.
I should have been. You saw what I did. They looked just like...
And that is why I say, I think we find your fox and you go home.
What if that means I'm broken too? What if I can't go home?
You asked me why it felt like you knew me. Sometimes two people meet who are broken in complement. And though they are both broken, together they are whole. But that does not mean it is a good choice for you to stay here with me. You have a man who can sing fire into oranges waiting for you. You have an out. You have a life. If you come with me, it will just be more of this.
Eva will reach out and take your hand again. Do I feel any difference? Is this the glamour physical, or can I sense it in any way?
I'll leave that up to you.
I think in the moment of grabbing his hand, you realize that though he uses the term glamour, it is not so much a magical concealment of another form, but rather another form altogether. When he is the rake you see in front of him. He is the rake you see in front of him. And I think when you think about that, the fact that he uses the rake you see in front of him as the term glamour, I think you realize which one he believes himself to be truly.
But to answer your question, you don't feel those sharp talons. You just feel his hands. They're a bit cold. Colder than they should be.
Can I try and warm them?
How would you like to do that?
I don't know what I have available to me if I don't have the knife.
It's up to you if you choose to grab it. Will you do it? You would need to get it from him, though. He has it holstered, as far as you know. But you've never actually tried to reach for it. And I don't mean that in the physical term. You've never tried to summon the knife to you.
I take his hand in one hand and with the other slowly reach, not to grab it, but just in the direction of it where I know he has it. May I?
Of course.
I'll step in just a little bit closer.
You're going to have to be quite close to grab the knife off of the hip holster.
And I'll reach just to lay my hand on it. I'm not going to take it. And I would like to wield the power.
So, you're trying to wield the power to warm him. The same thing you did last night. Okay? So when you wield the power to do something only a god can, roll 2d6 and add 1 for each true statement. You've done this specific act before, perfectly. I mean, you came pretty close. So yeah, I'll give you that one. You're desperate for this to work. Are you desperate for this to work?
No. But I would like it to.
Okay. And you're close to a shrine, lair, or domain of the god you took this power from? No. So that's a +1.
A 6 and a 3.
So that's a 9. +1. So on an overkill. The GM will describe how you also drain, terrify, or wreck what's around you. Oh,
It's new. It's a new power.
It is new. As her hand touches the hilt of the knife, and she grabs your hand as well, it's as like you become part of a circuit. The two of you connected by your skin touching to this unimaginable power source, and you feel it. You feel the thrum of power. Rake, and it scares you. That is more power thrumming through her than you have ever felt, ever. Even when you are in your other form, it shouldn't feel like that. She should not, as a mortal, be carrying that much power in her. And I think you start to question why. Why is it when she holds this blade that it feels like she could do what was intended with this without you? Because you know who this knife is really intended for. It's intended for you, not for her.
I think he thinks back to the very first time he saw her. He remembers seeing the sunrise, and he looks at her, and he sees her. I see you. I don't know why, but I see you. And you've seen me, and I can tell you that sometimes it's easier not being seen. Because when someone sees you, and sees you completely, there is nowhere to hide. You are special, and I would do anything to protect you, even if that means sending you away. This map has brought us to Teo for a reason. The only person that I have ever known who has loved me was my father. So I'm not very well versed in what love is, but I know I feel the same way about you. And I think he would take the hand that she's not holding and cup her face with it. You are real. And this is real. And you see that he looks at you, and his eyes glance down at your lips. And you see he's looking for some sort of consent or permission.
I think Eva is feeling the divinity coursing through her as her hand is still on this knife. As his hand is in hers, his hand is on her face. And she just keeps thinking, which she hasn't said out loud because she doesn't want to hurt him. She doesn't even know if she believes it, but it feels so true. How could anyone love her if she's so broken? After she's killed three people. After she's here to kill them. The one goddess that Varric dedicates his life to. How could he ever love her after that? And she feels this pull toward Rake. And he knows her. They are two halves of the same pain. I let go of the knife. And I look at you. And I start to lean towards you, and then I stop myself. I can't. I'm sorry. I bring my hand that was on the knife to cover yours on my face. I don't think I can.
And I think Rake would close the distance, and he would lean his forehead onto Ever's. And he would just stand there for a moment. feeling the contact between the two of them. The closest thing he's had to a genuine hug in a very long time. And he would say, "Let's get you home." And I think in his mind, when he's got his forehead pressed to hers and his eyes are closed, he burns that feeling into his memory. And I think later on, when he would think back to it, the visual that he would have in his mind is that of their foreheads pressed together, his wings encircling the both of them with dark, inky blackness, and her glowing like the rising sun from within. And in that moment, he knows he has many commitments. He has many obligations, but he would do anything to protect her. I think we've kept him waiting long enough.
I wrap my arms around him and I hug him tightly.
Your singer is a very, very lucky man.
After a moment, I pull back. You're coming with me, right? In there?
Of course.
And I take his hand. And we walk in.
You make it to the top floor, ascending up the stairs hand in hand, and you come to the middle apartment on the 5th floor. There's a window at the end of this hallway, letting in some of the hazy afternoon sun. It's warm up here. And as you walk towards the door, the map shows, and as it zooms in once more on this floor specifically, you see in front of you on the map is likely a 2-room apartment. There's a large room, seems to be probably a living quarters of some description, and then a smaller room. And you see Teo is in the smaller room adjacent. Do you knock?
I think I would look to Ever. Are you ready?
I squeeze his hand.
Now, I have a question.
Always.
You know, and our lovely audience knows, that I might have ulterior plans for while visiting Teo.
Mm-hmm.
But with what I experienced with Ever's overkill on that wield of power, do I feel certain enough in the knife's ability wielded by her that it would be redundant to test it further?
Gina, can you take your headphones off, please? You get the sense that the knife will work in her hands. But you don't know further about the machinations that the matron has set in place whether you have to be the one wielding the blade. It was the knife that branded you.
So it would be advantageous to check whether it would work for me.
The reason that your mother wanted you to find her in the first place was that she had enough vengeance in her heart that if she wielded the knife, it would still be able to be guided by the matron's hand. You don't know what will happen if she kills a god with that knife. The main reason that your mother wanted you to test it was because if it killed the person using that knife, if it killed you, all would be for naught. All of this planning, all of this work would have been for nothing.
And one last question.
Always.
It is not possible for a mortal to injure a god, right? So if I was to deduce that if I could cut or even prick to make bleed, that would be proof enough that the knife works? Or do I actually need to kill a god?
You haven't been given that sort of information. You don't know. This is new territory. Your mother's trying to make a Godkiller. She wants you to be her Godkiller. And she has roped Ever into it. You know that a mortal cannot hurt a god. But you know the power that you have as a godling. And you have felt the power in her hands when she carries that knife. And there is a thrum of power to her without the knife.
I saw it that day on the steps.
You did. You clocked it right away. You know what divinity looks like.
All right. And I knock.
Godkiller Balance is performed by M. Carlson, Gina Susanna, and Yanis Vessels. This season's dramaturge is Tim Carlson. Special thanks to our campaign artist Mishi, who you can find at MishiArt on Twitter. Our main theme for this episode, Light and Dark, was composed by Sean McRoberts. Character and location leitmotifs composed by Cy Rutherford of Sounds of Adventure. Music and effects by Epidemic Sound. For more stories, come follow us everywhere at Blackwater D&D, and make sure to check out our main campaign on Monday night at 8 p.m. Pacific at twitch.tv/BlackwaterD&D. To play your own campaign of Godkiller and dive into your own divinity, go support Godkiller by purchasing the Ashcan on itch.io today, with the print version published soon by Evil Hat Productions. This show is made possible by our sponsors who graciously support us playing pretend and having feelings about it. We are grateful to be sponsored by Hero Forge, who offer fully customizable miniatures made with their online 3D character creator. Head on over to design your own Godkiller and get them printed in a wide variety of materials, including color printing options. With new content added each week, check out www.heroforge.com to start bringing your characters to life. This show is also proudly sponsored by Moonbeam, a better and safer way to stream. Dive into realms for vibrant community hubs where creators keep 100% of what they earn while protected by Pixis, a revolutionary moderation tool that learns and adapts to your boundaries. So check them out and join Moonbeam today. Finally, we're thankful to our patrons for joining us on our second journey through the cradle. You too can come join us on Patreon, where you can check out behind-the-scenes info, our Talkback Show Chatwater, as well as exclusive Godkiller bonus content and so much more. Head on over to patreon.com/blackwaterdnd for all the details. See you next time, heretics, and to all the gods out there, be safe.
Stop, you're gonna make me cry.
Stop, piece of shit. Oh my god. Oh, I'm so sorry. You're gonna have to give me a second.
I barely held it together through saying it. Fuck you.
Oh man.
It's a good thing I brought these.
Oh, fuck.
I wasn't gonna cry.
That first episode with you and Tim just wrecked me. Fuck. Oh, okay. Oh, God. Oh. You two are so good.